Hi everyone, this is Jessica coming to you live from Assisi Yoga. I am happy to be joining you again from back in Rochester. Um, I'm looking forward to our practice together tonight, something a little more relaxed and easeful as we go through a day with lots of transitions. I figured it's a good time for a practice that transitions us as well into our evening and a little bit more relaxed place in ourselves. So, before we get started today, a few announcements, just reminders of things that are coming up at Assisi Yoga that you may be interested in joining us for. Um, the first is this weekend. The second session of the Thai Yoga workshop is this Saturday. And then next weekend is the Food and Herbs Ayurveda workshop, which I'm personally very excited about. I'm looking forward to joining then, and I hope that you can join us as well. And then on November 7th is the chakras via the eyes of Ayurveda, which I think should be another really interesting workshop. So lots of good opportunities to continue to join us through Assisi Yoga. You can find more information about any of those on Assisi Yoga's website. And we'll look forward to having you join us in some of those sessions. So I think that we're just about ready to get started today. So I'm just going to scoop myself back to my mat and I hope you'll join me there. So as we start our session tonight, we're going to begin in child's pose. It's a nice way to just get the system starting to calm and relax. So I'm going to take my time coming into the pose as I'm moving. Beginning simply in Virasana, kneeling, giving myself a moment here. And then gradually I'm going to start to lengthen forward. So I'm looking at lengthening from the hip crease as I come forward, trying to keep the seat as settled as possible. So I start to find some length. Hands come to the floor. Maybe I start to feel that the seat wants to lift. So I'm just going to press into my hands a little bit, lift up my chest, lengthen the spine. And then as I exhale, I'll walk the hands forward a little bit more. Until again, I start to feel that sense of lifting up. I take a moment, press into my hands, lift the chest. And then exhale. See if I find a bit more release. And we can take that as many times as we need to. Just giving ourselves the time. Inhaling, lengthening, exhale, releasing. There's enough space between the knees so that we can release the torso into that space. And each breath, I'm coming a little bit closer until finally you get to the place. The spine is long, forehead releases. And we settle into our child's pose now. Now, because I want to just let my body relax and settle in, I'm going to draw my elbows back a couple of inches so my forearms can release completely onto the floor. Taking the opportunity to connect in with the breath. Notice where I'm at right now. Whether the head is quiet or active. Noticing the state of the body. Maybe subtle emotional things happening, maybe not so subtle, depending on your day. Just there with it. And maybe we take a few breaths. We're going to breathe right into the back of the lungs so that we can feel back body expanding. If
It broadens, gets a little wider on the inhalation. And as I exhale, shoulders are going to soften a little bit more. Outer rib cage. Feeling the torso growing heavier toward the floor as the shoulders are relaxing. Take a couple more breaths like that, expanding into the back. And exhaling, soften. Now after a few breaths, you may find that the back of the neck starts to feel a little bit short because we're releasing more toward the floor, working with the breath here. So you may find we just want to lift the head for a moment, lengthen back out the neck, maybe move it a little from side to side, and then let the head re-land with the neck lengthened out. We'll take a few more breaths here. Feeling the breath move, the lower belly. Maybe we even feel how the expansion of the abdomen across the thighs. And now we're going to start to draw up onto hands and knees, tabletop position. Drawing the wrists maybe an inch or two in front of the shoulders. Spread the fingers wide. Feel this contact with the floor. Check in with my spine. First in a neutral position, just to sort of see where I'm at right now. Maybe I find I need to just move the hips a little bit from side to side. And then when we're ready, we're going to begin taking our spinal waves. I'm going to start to draw, tucking in my tailbone and letting the center of the spine start to move up toward the ceiling. And the head draws in toward the tailbone. And then as I inhale, I change directions, lifting the tail, drop the belly. The chest starts to open between the shoulders. And at the very end of the line, the head lifts. I'm going to move through that a few more times. Nice and slow. Feeling the articulation of the spine as you move. Sometimes we hear trying to feel vertebrae by vertebrae. I'm not sure we can get in quite that close, but it can be an objective. Trying to see just how closely I can feel that movement. We'll come one more time through our cow. And then come back to neutral. And we're going to walk the hands a little farther forward. Keep the hips lifted as you walk your arms forward. And you're gradually going to start to drop the chest toward the floor. And again, maybe the forehead releases to the floor. And I'm pressing into my hands. And here, I'm just letting my spine hang long from the sitting bones. I feel the sense of sitting bones lifting up toward the ceiling. The upper part of the sacrum is dipping down toward the spine. And the spine hangs almost like a hammock here in this space. I try to feel this as closely as I can because in just a moment we're going to transition to down dog. And as we make that transition, we want to try and hold this shape if we can. So I'm going to press into the hands and start to lift the chest a bit. Walk my hands back a few inches. From here, tuck the toes. We're going to keep the knees pretty soft, but start to lift up into your down dog. And seeing, can I find that shape again? Can I find the sense of just letting the spine hang from the sitting bones? And you can keep the knees as soft as you need them to be. You don't need to try and force the legs straight. It's more about finding the length here. a couple of breaths. The soft down dog position. Good. And from here, we're going to start to lengthen the legs now. Pressing the backs of the thighs back behind me, still trying to maintain that length that we found. Now, we're going to move the right leg forward, stepping it forward between the hands. If we can, we're going to lift the right leg, lifting it up, and then squeeze the knees through and step it forward. If that doesn't work for you, just drop the back knee and pull the right leg around. We're going to bring the right foot almost all the way to the edge of our mat and drop the back knee. Now, if we needed to here, we could have a blanket or something under the knee for a little bit of extra support. I'm going to keep my hands resting on the floor and let my right knee start to open out to the side, rolling onto the edge of the right foot. My arms are straight and supported, but I'm still trying to find the relaxation in this pose as the hip is opening, spine is lengthening. You can move the pelvis a little more toward the floor as the shoulders draw away from the ears. Take a couple more breaths here. Good, and we'll start to draw the right knee back in. We're going to tuck the back toe. If we can, we'll lift the back knee and step back into down dog. If that doesn't work, you're just going to swing the right knee around from here and come back into a kneeling position. And then we'll transfer to the other side. So I'm going to lift my right leg and left leg, step it all the way through. So it comes forward almost all the way to the edge of the mat. Left arm is inside the foot. Spine is long, and I'm going to drop the back knee here. Release that back foot, and then start to roll onto the outer edge of the left foot, letting the left knee just open out to the side. And again, pressing into the hands. So I have the architecture of the arms for support, but then I can let the shoulders relax more. Pelvis is moving toward the floor so that I feel this deep stretch in the hip. Just be careful not to overdo it on the knee. If you start to feel too much pressure on the knee, let's draw that leg back in a little bit. And breathe. And we'll start to draw the left knee back in. And either swing that left leg around or tuck the back toe, lift the back knee, and step back again into our down dog. Now from here, we're going to draw forward into plank position. So if we're on the knees, we're just going to let the chest start to move forward. If you are coming from down dog, moving forward into plank, this nice long line all the way from the heels to the crown of the head. And now I'm just, because I want to keep it a little easier, I'm going to drop the knees and start to bend the elbows and settle down onto my belly here. So we give ourselves a moment, just rest for a second. And now I'm going to start to draw the forearms forward and come into my Sphinx pose. So elbows are a little bit ahead of the shoulders and just a little bit wider. Palms down on the floor, and my fingers spread wide. So I have lots of support here in this base. Maybe I lift the right leg, keep the hip points down on the floor, lift the right leg, stretch the foot back, and re-release this leg. Now it's a little longer than the left. And I do the same thing with the left leg. Lifting that leg, stretching the foot back, re-releasing. Maybe a little rock in the hips from side to side. And now I'm going to focus on lengthening out the torso, the spine. So I'm taking my arms here and just check in, make sure that the position feels right so you feel well supported. And then I'm going to pull on the forearms. Pull the forearms. They're not actually going to go anywhere, but we're going to pull like we're trying to pull ourselves forward on the mat. As we do that, the shoulders will slide back. Crown of the head is lengthening forward, and we feel this space opening up between the vertebrae. Again, we may not feel each individual one, but I have the sense that I'm growing, getting a little bit taller here. A couple more breaths. Good. And now we'll start to lower down. And we can stack the hands and let the forehead rest on the top of the hands, or maybe just turn one cheek to the mat. Take a breath or two here. Good. Now from here, I'm just going to slide myself back a little bit. We're going to bring the arms directly out to the sides. So if anything, we're going to err on the side of slightly below the shoulders, and we just want to be careful we're not going above the height of the shoulders here. So arms out to the sides, palms down. We're going to start to draw the left hand in close to the left shoulder. We're going to let your head release so that the right cheek is on the floor, and start to press into the left hand so that the left hip lifts up. So I'm rolling toward that right arm. The knees can be soft here. Using the left hand for support. Now, if you feel like you'd like to take it a little further, we can start to lift the left knee and bring the left foot right onto the floor, flat onto the floor. And if you're really feeling open, you have really open shoulders, you might even be able to take that left hand, reach it back, and clasp with the right hand. That's probably not for too many of us. Most of us are going to feel comfortable here or with the knee still, left knee still released. And I'm going to bring the left leg back, stack it on top of the right. Supporting myself with the left hand, I start to roll back toward the belly. And now I'm going to make a little transition. I'm just going to press into the left hand, bring my right hand up underneath the head to support the head, staying on the right side of my body. I'm going to draw left knee in, take my fingers, wrap them around the big toe from the inside, and we're going to lengthen up this left leg. So if you can't grab the toe and lengthen, it might be that you could take a strap around the foot, or we might just have to grab the back of the thigh for the time being. If you're a little more open, you want to take it deeper, maybe you're pulling that leg closer to the head or the top of the mat. Take a couple more breaths here. One more inhale and exhale. We'll start to bend this knee, release the toes, release the knee, and we'll roll back onto our belly. Good. Arms come back out to the sides. Turn the left cheek to the mat. Bring the right arm in closer to the right shoulder. And now we're going to start to roll toward lifting the right side, rolling onto the left side of the body. We let the knees get soft as we roll. Stretching around the left shoulder girdle. Just careful not to overdo it. So you're checking in as you move. It may be that you never get that right hip over the left hip. You might have to keep it forward at a little bit more of an angle. And then again, if we wish, you can start to lift the right knee,
Bring the right foot to the floor. It's going to be quite a bit more intense than where we were before. So if we need to step it back, don't be afraid to move back the other direction. And again, you could take that right arm back and around and clasp the left hand. But don't feel like we have to take it back. Just enjoying the stretch around the shoulder. Fairly intense, but sort of sweet too. And we'll close the right knee and supporting ourselves with the right hand. We start to release a little bit further forward. And just so I don't have my back to you, I'm going to spin around, but you're going to roll back onto the left side of your body, supporting your head with your left hand. Knees are bent in a little bit, and this is going to help to keep us stable. As the right knee draws in, we'll grab the big toe with the fingers, middle and pointer finger, start to extend that leg up, and then again, if we wish, drawing it in a little further. This is one I take sometimes when, laying around, stories being read to the kids or we're watching TV. It just feels so good on the hips. So I hope you like hanging out here too, and don't be afraid to take it later if you're watching a movie or something with family. We'll bend this knee, release the toes, let the right knee close on top, and then we're going to start to just press into the hands and lift ourselves up to seated. Now, if you're really comfortable just being flat on the floor, that's totally fine. I'm going to take a small blanket, just a simple rolled blanket, so that I can sit on the edge of that blanket to lift my hips up a tiny bit. It's maybe an inch. And then we're going to extend legs out as wide as you can comfortably go. So don't feel like you have to push them, to the point that you're cramping in the hips. But we want to get them a reasonable distance. Lifting up the toes, lifting the kneecaps. Sit up tall. Let's take a few breaths here, just in this upright position. Maybe the fingers tented on the floor, pressing into the fingers a bit so that the chest can lift. And I'm even going to take the bottom edges of my shoulder blades and draw those into the spine to help lift a little more as I'm hanging out here. And that's naturally going to lift the chest up as well. Don't forget about the legs though. And we inhale here. Exhale, let's start to walk the hands forward. Folding forward from the hips. Take your time. There's no hurry. And just like we did with our child's pose, we can slowly release ourselves forward. So if we notice a sticky spot where the body doesn't really want to move anymore, we can pause there. Maybe even press lightly into the hands. Lift your chest up a little bit. Draw the shoulders back. Lengthen out of the hips. And then next, exhale. See if we can release some of the tension. And just drop a little further toward the floor. We'll take a few more breaths like that. Facial muscles are soft. I always have some awareness what's happening to the legs. Keeping the feet flexed, pressing the heels away, pressing the back of the thighs down toward the floor. And now we're going to press into the hands as we inhale. Lift the torso all the way up. And we're going to take the hands now and use them for a little bit of support as we twist the torso over the left leg. And from here, we'll inhale, lift the chest, and exhale, we're going to start to lengthen forward. Now, if you can get all the way to hands in contact with the feet, with the spine long, that's fine. In fact, great. If you can't, that's not a problem though. We're just going to bring the hands to the outside of the calf. If you like the sensation of having that little bit of extra support, we can always have a strap wrapped around the foot as well. So we find the place that works for us. And breathe. Don't forget about your right leg. Both legs want to be kept in the picture here. And inhale, we come up and untwist. And then we'll turn the torso over to the other side. Lift the chest. And then exhale, starting to lengthen forward, nice and long. So we're not at this point, we're not rounding the back out. We want to keep the torso as long as possible as we're reaching for that foot. Both legs in our awareness. Facial muscles soft. And inhale, come all the way up. Turning the body back to center, and maybe use the hands for support as we draw the legs back in, soles of the feet together. Coming into Baddha Konasana. Knees release out to the side, shoulders soft and down. Again, I like to take a couple breaths here. Sometimes when we take Baddha Konasana, we stay upright the whole time. For tonight, we'll take a couple breaths upright, long, and the next exhalation, let's start to release forward. And we get long first as we're coming forward, and then we'll release the head and shoulders. Feeling the lengthening through the low back, keeping the sitting bones down. Breathe, enjoying that sense of lengthening out. Stretching the low back. And then we inhale, come all the way up. And exhale, soften, roll the shoulders back. And now we're going to roll onto our backs. We're going to come straight into happy baby pose. So back flat on the floor. We'll draw the knees in. And then typically we take the pointer finger and middle finger, as we did before, wrap them around the big toes. The soles of the feet are up toward the ceiling. Knees are coming in toward the shoulders with the elbows inside the knees. Now, some of you might be able to take the hands to the outsides of the feet. So the fingers wrap up and around the inner arch of the foot from the outside. Pressing the sacrum down. Here, we don't have a lot of poses where we're really lengthening out the whole spine. This is definitely one of them, though. You know, typically we're keeping the natural curves of the spine. This one we feel like we almost could feel the entire spine touching the floor. The sacrum rolls down, shoulders drawing down, chin tucked enough that the back of the neck is nice and long. And maybe take this very slow movement from side to side. These long, ropey muscles on either side of the spine, massaging them out as we move lightly. And come in back to center. Draw the feet together, release the hands, draw the knees together.
Keeping the knees in for a moment. Maybe give yourself a little rock from side to side here. We come all the way back to center. We're going to keep the right knee held in and lengthen the left leg out along the mat. And we take a few breaths really simply here. Gradually that right knee is drawing in and toward the right shoulder, so it's opening out just a little bit. Mostly I can relax, enjoy the lengthening. And I'm going to take my hands to the back of the thigh. Do a little exercise that I've just recently learned about, and I found that it has made a really big difference in my body. So I'm going to give it to you, and you can see whether it works for you or not. So from here, we're going to flex the right foot and then lengthen the leg out and point the toe. So it doesn't have to be completely straight or completely upright if you can't get it that far, but we're heading in that direction. And then we pull the knee back in. The foot relaxes until we bring it all the way in. We flex the foot, lengthen the leg out, and point the toe. And we're going to continue that sequence a few more times. Pull the knee in. So what's happening here? This is an exercise actually for the sciatic nerve. When we flex the foot, it's pulling the sciatic nerve toward the foot. So it's lengthening out, pulling it toward the foot there. And then as I lengthen the leg and point the toe, I get even more length across it. So it kind of draws it long, releases some of the kinks. If we have any kinks or pinches along that nerve, it seems to give a lot of relief. I'm going to let you try for yourself and see whether it makes a difference. But I've certainly noticed in my body, I was having a little bit of an issue there after the hiking, and I found this really made a big difference. Good. So we'll keep it in on the right side, draw the left knee in to meet it. Give yourself a little rock from side to side. And then let's lengthen the right leg long. Keep the left knee drawn in. And right now the hands may be wrapped around the front of the shin bone as we take a few breaths. Drawing the left leg closer, left knee closer. We'll move the hands to the back of the thigh, interlacing the fingers to hold it here, flexing the left foot, and then lengthening the left leg up toward the ceiling, pointing the toe. And we take that cycle a few times. Pull the knee in, the foot is soft here, we flex the ankle, extend the leg, and point the toe. Pull the knee in, flex the ankle, extend the leg, point the toe, and take it one more time. And we'll draw the left leg all the way in, let the right leg join it here. One more time, little rock from side to side. Let's keep the knees drawn in. We're going to bring the arms out to the side. Inhale, and on the exhale, we'll drop the knees over to the left side first today. Take a breath or two here as we're settling in. And then maybe turning the head away from the direction of the knees. And if you wish, we're going to take the left foot, bring it up and around the right knee so that the ankle bone is resting just above the right knee. And we use the weight of the left leg to draw the right leg a little closer to the floor. And we'll uncross the left leg if we crossed it over. And inhale, everything comes back to center. Exhale, drop the knees over to the right side. Take a breath or two before we add anything else. We just give the spine a minute to settle in, the shoulders, and maybe turning the head away from the knees. And again, if you wish, taking the right foot, right ankle crosses just over the top of the left knee, and we use the weight of the right leg to draw that twist a little deeper. So I find this particular way of twisting is a really nice way to open up the back of the sacroiliac joint. Expand the back. And I'll uncross the right leg and draw the knees back to center on the inhalation. Good. Let the feet release to the floor, relatively close. So let's reach our fingers forward and tickle the back of the heels here. Checking to make sure that the shin bones are vertical. And these should be just about directly over the ankles. We're going to press the hands into the floor, press the forearms and the triceps into the floor, and we're going to lift up into our bridge pose. So lift the front of the hip points up toward the ceiling as we press firmly into the arms, shoulder blades tuck up underneath. And we're drawing the chest toward the chin and the chin toward the chest. We'll hold here for a few breaths. We'll untuck the shoulders, lift to the balls of the feet, and slowly start to roll the spine down from the upper shoulders, mid-spine. Roll out the low back. Try and get the low back to touch down before the sacrum. And then the heels finally land. Give yourself a full round of breath here before we change the position. Just that, sometimes we can have a little cramping if we pull in too quickly. Good, and then we'll draw the knees into the torso. And release the feet again. Let's take it a second time. Checking in, I'm just checking to make sure I still have my heels there. And then again, pressing, press the feet forward, start to lift the hip points. Come to the top, tuck the shoulder blades up underneath, pressing firmly. Press the knees away. Whole front of the body is nice and long here. And we'll hold for 3, 2, 1. And we untuck the shoulders, lift the balls of the feet, and slowly roll yourself down out of the pose. So hopefully spine feels nice and long. Let's just check in real quick before we move towards Shavasana, because it's just about that time. See if there's anything you feel like you need before we move into Shavasana. So maybe some of us would need a little bit more twisting or lengthening out. So we take what we need. And then when we're ready, we're going to start to settle towards Shavasana. So for today, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I've got my blanket, my small roll I'm going to bring as a pillow under my head, and bolster I'm going to take to support under the knees. Just get yourself settled in. If you have some other place that you want to be for Shavasana, by all means, take what's going to work well for you, where you feel your body can really fully relax. And we're letting the arms open out to the sides a bit with the palms up. Gradually settling into the floor. Perhaps taking a moment to scan the body. Notice anywhere we're holding particular tension. Just bring the awareness to rest there for a moment. Sometimes that's enough. Just being aware of the tension and letting the awareness come to it. Tension will release. We don't have to do anything. Sometimes it won't. And if that's the case, we're not going to spend too much time worrying about it. We'll just move on to the next spot. And you'll continue to scan through your whole body until we've located those areas of tension, given them a moment to release, and then move on. Letting the facial muscles soften. The whole body in our awareness. And the whole body releases. We're going to take a few more deep breaths here. as always, if you have time and you want to hang out a little bit longer, I fully encourage that. Take a good 10, 15, 20 minutes in Shavasana if you can, if life allows. For the rest of us, we'll start to bring a bit of movement back into the fingers and toes. We're going to start to roll to one side. Rest in the fetal position for a few breaths with the head resting on the bottom arm. And when you're ready, without too much disturbance, you're going to press into the arm, press into the hands, start to lift the chest, let the head hang heavy. Drawing ourselves back up into a comfortable seated position. Draw the arms up to heart center with the thumbs resting on the chest. Just giving this moment a little time, a little openness. We check in again as we did in the beginning. Be well. Until next week, namaste. All right. Take care, my friends. I'll see you next Thursday, same time, same place. Take care.